Sarah, thank you for inviting me on your show. So, corona testing is not as simple as a pregnancy test. It's not a yes or a no. There are really three kinds of tests. There's the PCR test, which can be taken shortly within the first 7 or so days of infection, to be accurate, 7 to 10 days. And then you have an antigen test a little bit later, and then you can have the antibody test, which is a serology, a blood test. The one we will be marketing or distributing is a pinprick test, which can be taken and results received in about 15 minutes without an instrument, and can be used by practitioners, healthcare practitioners, physicians primarily, interpreting in conjunction with previous tests, symptoms, and this test, whether a patient was likely to be exposed to the virus or not.
So it would seem that, so it's basically a test for immunity, is that right? And it can help determine who can go back to work if they are indeed proven to be immune.
That is correct, but the physician has to make that decision at the end of the day. The test can be administered by any healthcare worker, but the physician should make the decision as to whether the patient can go back to work or not.
And Stanley, talk us through the level of approval that you've needed for this. I think I'm right in saying it doesn't require FDA approval, but have you been working closely with all the government and regulatory bodies, and how quickly can you ramp this up to have how many test kits out there, how soon?
The test has not gone through the FDA approval process. Having said that, the FDA did publish guidelines on what companies need to do to comply with whatever the FDA is seeking to ensure that the products could be marketed. Having said that, it is not approved by the FDA per se. We will have hundreds of thousands by the end of this week and into next week, and then millions over the next period of time.
Where will they go? How can people get them?
Well, the tests can be ordered through Henry Schein by physicians. Henry Schein is the largest provider of products to office-based dentists and physicians. We're a company that focuses on servicing medical practitioners, whether they are in their own practices or in large group practices, perhaps even owned by a hospital group. And the best way to have a test taken would be to consult with your physician, and we'd be able to ship the product to the physician.
And how much will these cost, Dan?
We have not published a price yet, but the price will be relatively inexpensive compared to some of the other tests that are associated with the coronavirus.
I mean, I know you're talking about in the millions. So are you working with multiple manufacturers to make sure that you have an adequate supply of these tests? I would imagine there would be demand well beyond the United States, Dan.
Well, we are distributing this product primarily in the United States at the moment. We have announced one manufacturer that we're working with, and we do expect, although nothing is confirmed yet, that we will have other manufacturers that will be able to distribute their products through Henry Schein. Remember, Henry Schein is a company that focuses generally on point-of-care tests for the physician office, and we carry most tests for most office-based practitioner-type diagnostics, and this will be just another one of the tests in our offering.
I'm curious, as such a major distributor to so many healthcare offices and workers in this country, what you're seeing and what you make of the supply shortages we hear about in the hospitals of the masks and the gloves and the necessary equipment, and whether you can play any role in helping to get them that.
Yes, well, we have been working on this area in the area of PPE, and particularly relating to masks where there's a shortage. As you know, what happened is that the virus started being detected in China in the early part of this year, at a time just before the Chinese New Year. So the virus expanded in China during the Chinese New Year. Manufacturers were caught in a perfect storm. They had sent their workers home, and they came back from the Chinese New Year to be challenged by a need for these masks and did not have enough masks. So China now is gradually coming back into business and delivering on masks. And we're expecting the supply of masks to go up. We're working very closely with the administration in Washington. The 5 major distributors of medical supplies got together with the president and a task force that has been put together to deal with this matter yesterday, in fact. And we are going to find ways to bring in more products now that production is up and running to a greater extent in China. In fact, the U.S. government is sending planes over to Asia to bring these masks over. Of course, the lesson to be learned here is that over time we need to have greater production of masks in the United States.